It's okay. You pick up something along the way. All right, well, let's get started. I want to welcome everybody to the Y.E.S Syndicate tonight. Things are going really well. Rod and I are going to launch a podcast where we're gonna chat for 20 minutes on that show about current topics, and we're going to open it up to people that have Q&A, a little bit like what we've done here. We want to sprinkle a little bit more out there and continue our value of giving back and answering questions and helping people on a broader scale. So that'll live actually on my podcast channel. So if you're already subscribed to that, you'll get it. If you're not subscribed, please do so. Go to The Answer Is Yes on Spotify or Apple iTunes, Spreaker, and just about every other platform out there. We had a great intro discussion, which I can't wait to share with everybody, which will probably be in the next couple of days. Really just have to pick our music for the intro. That seems like an important aspect. And I hope that you take this as a lesson that as you look at ways that you can expand your business, there's a number of ways that you can look beyond your own borders. We love this call. We love doing what we're doing here. But I thought, what are we missing? And the one thing that we were missing is a supportive component of a small podcast, right? So again, we're thrilled to be doing that and adding that as an additional resource for anybody that wants to listen. So thanks for joining in. Appreciate everybody. I'm going to start like I used to. It's been a little while since I read one of the Andy Frisella brief blogs. And I'm not sure if anybody here gets his newsletters, but it's free. You sign up for it. Just go to andyfrisella.com and you can pick them up. But he's always got some nuggets. And once in a while, one will resonate with me as it relates to our messaging here. And today's message that he had was, where do you fall in the success food chain? Where do you fall in the success food chain? Every single one of us has a role or a part in the success food chain. The strong and the skilled will prosper, while the weak and the passive will struggle to survive. No different than in nature, right? You can, point out, you can pout, you can complain about how unfair it is all you want, but it won't remove you from the competition. Right. And this is where it gets good, right? He says, the good news is, even though nature doesn't give you a choice, the success food chain does. In nature, you're either born a predator or prey. If you don't like it, too fucking bad, right? In the success food chain, you may be born as the prey, but you have the opportunity to become the predator. And I think that's what we're all here for. Finding that opportunity to become the predator, right? It comes down to your choices, right? And those choices could be how disciplined you are, if you invest in yourself, surround yourself with greatness, lifelong student of success, execute every day, account for every detail, choose to help others, choose to provide value, choose to be enthusiastic, provide and implement solutions, choose to never quit. Choose to success, right? But if you choose not to compete, you'll spend your entire life struggling to survive. And I just love that mentality, because every day I approach, like, I'm going to go out there and win today. I treat it just like I'm in an off-road race, right? The only choice is to go win, and I'm going to do whatever I can to win. So in my case, I'm choosing to be a predator, and I hope that you do as well. I would presume that that's why you're on these calls, because you want to take that next step. Rod had some fun with the title of today's show, which is part of his rules of three. You'll find it on the back end of the Syndicate under tools. So today's topic is lie, cheat, and steal. I know we've got some law enforcement on here, and they're going, oh, I can't wait to hear this, right? So here's my quote for the day. Many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up. And I'm constantly talking about just keep pursuing your passion, be patient. You want to be an entrepreneur? Being patient is one of those key factors. Nothing's going to happen overnight. It's amazing when you get on these phones, the bullshit that people post on social media, like life is grand and there's no hard days. I probably do some of the same. Most of my posts these days are my kids, because I'm proud of them. But, life is hard and it takes patience, but don't give up until you've achieved it. Because oftentimes, as Edison says, you give up right before things get really, really good. So great quote. All right, let's dig into what the lesson means. And we'll start with lie. And Rod's explanation of this is lie awake at night, dreaming and planning. So you're going to see where this is going to go real quick, right? So think about what that means to you and how you can build your business, through your thoughts and your perception of where things should go in life, right? There's no excuses why you can't plan out what your goals and visions are. And it was fun today. I taught a class at the high school, and we talked about interviewing and techniques and questions and good questions to ask back and what questions you might expect. But being prepared, right, is part of the planning process. Writing out your goals, writing out your values, writing out your business plan, and a lot of that has to do with your thoughts in your head. Where are you going to take this thing? What are you dreaming about? What are you planning? Put that onto paper. And so I love the point of lie awake at night, dreaming and planning, because that all goes into the process. Right? I spend a lot of time writing down what my next moves are and putting them into action, developing an action plan around that, implementing those action plans, and then going to work on it. And again, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, takes some patience, but you'll see the fruits of your labor and the proper planning. And by the way, like I teach the kids, dream big. If you're going to lie awake at night, dream big. Don't dream small for yourself, right? You want to have a podcast, make it the biggest podcast out there. When I started my podcast, I thought nobody's going to listen to me, and who in their right mind is going to let me interview them, right? Today, I just finished recording, I think it was episode 225. I've got almost 70,000 subscribers, right? I mean, who would have thought? I would have never written that down for myself, that I'd have that many subscribers in this period of time with that many guests, right? But it happens because I'm consistently pursuing that objective of having a successful show. Now, that show's brought me a lot of other things on top of it. So when you're planning, when you're lying awake at night, dreaming and planning, plan how one thing will lead to the next, how you'll be able to execute on that through different platforms in your life, right? All right. Cheat yourself out of momentary rewards and pleasure. And we talked about this a little bit the last couple of times we've been on the calls here, and that's prolonging gratification, right? Prolonging pulling money out of your business, rewarding yourself. Like, I got to go buy that new car, that new latest, greatest iPhone or whatever's out there. Because those early dollars that you generate in revenue are really important dollars for the sustainability of your business. And it's easy to get a fat check for something and go, wow, all right, I'm gonna get after it. I'm gonna reward myself for this. But those dollars are hard to come by. Certainly if you built your business and you spent the time to formulate your business plan, raise capital, whatever it is, don't squander that money away quickly. All right. So cheat yourself out of momentary rewards and pleasure. By the way, it's hard to do. It's hard to do. We're all human. It's like, okay, I'm going to splurge on a 6-pack or a nice bottle of whiskey, or maybe step it up, go to a nice dinner, and it just goes up from there, So it's really important to look at those dollars, the hard-earned dollars, especially if you break that out into an hourly. You put 500 hours into generating a business plan, you blow $500. It's not a very good return on your investment. So cheat yourself out of that. All right. The next one was steal ideas from others that you can implement in your life. And in quotes, we've got read, network, and your mentors. And I want to spend some time on this because I think this is where the biggest value is going to come in this lesson, is that there's a lot of people doing great things out there. And, anybody that has confidence in their business, they're not going to mind sharing their secret sauce with you and what they're doing, because they know if they're doing it right, they're leading the charge. I know Fred's in the Lion's Den, and Sean Whalen over there, he's happy to tell you what he's doing. He gives away all his secrets online. He'll do it in a phone call or a podcast. This is exactly what I'm doing. And the reason why he does that, he says, I know half you guys out there, more than half, will never do what I'm doing, because he talks about outworking everybody else, right? And that's how I feel in my business. I want to outwork everybody else. So don't be afraid to look at what others are doing and implement some of those good ideas, and then plan on outworking everybody else. You want to succeed, that's what it's going to take. Because if you keep showing up, eventually they're going to stop showing up and you're going to be the last person standing. Your business is going to be the only alternative, right? Or you can be the best alternative to what other people are doing, right? So you want to show up, utilize those ideas, and not be afraid to not be so original, because sometimes they might not be executing their ideas as well as they could. And I love Sean for that. I've been very happy to share my ideas and how I do things. Not only does it feel good, I'm happy to prop people up and give them an opportunity to also be successful. But I feel like it's the right thing to do too. Looking at your network, I think we've quoted before, your network is your net worth, right? And I've talked about this before, is building out your network and how important your email database is. Eventually, that will become the gold of your business. Share a little quick story. I've got a friend up here in Montana. She is a social media influencer, and her specialty is that she does workout programs for people. She's got I think it's over 500,000 followers on her Instagram page. And to most of us, what does that mean? Well, what that means to her is she makes a very good living at that. She makes a 6-figure income off of her 500,000 followers plus, right? Because she's leveraged her followers as an asset. She's went out and monetized it with several sponsors, and they've been willing to pay her to do that job. And so, by the way, she's got a political opinion. She leans far right. She loves her Black Rifle Coffee Company, and she's very patriotic, which I love that about her. She's not afraid to hide her position and how she feels. And that has cost her what they call being canceled on social media. And I said, hey, how's it going? She goes, well, they're canceling me left and right, but I haven't lost too many followers, but I'm worried about it. I said, well, what's your backup? She's like, I'm not really sure. I said, well, what's your email database look like? You've got 500,000 followers on social media. Have you collected emails? And she says, Jim, I don't have any of their emails. And my jaw hit the floor. I said, what do you mean? She goes, I don't have any emails. I said, well, I would highly recommend, before you're completely canceled, that you develop a way to capture those emails from your 500,000 followers, right? Build a system in your business, in your outreach, in your free giveaways and everything else to build a database of emails. Because if she gets canceled and shut down, she's got nothing. She's out of business. So when you look at your own networks, look at how you can grow your network, utilize your network in a professional manner, but continue to build it. Look at all the business cards you've stacked up over the years. Don't be afraid to check those email addresses, see who's still in their role, and continue to strive to build your network. Bruce is on the line tonight. I saw him at the gun show last month, and we were talking in the lobby. I think Rod and I said, hey, Bruce, don't forget to grab a business card off of every single table. Why? Because that's going to be your network. That's going to be the foundation of your awesome podcast. By the way, Bruce, we were publishing that last week on our social media forums because it's such a great job. But that becomes your network, right? That builds your foundation. So if you're going to go to a show that's in your industry, grab a business card from every table. That's what they're there for. Grab those email addresses, do the work, input it into your database, and build out your network. That's what I love about shows. You might not even care about going to the actual show, but if it gives you the ability to capture email addresses from people that have common interests, they're in the same business as you, you can reach out. Now, Fred, looking at your business and what you guys do, same deal, man. You can find, you can go to Cowboy Christmas out there in Vegas, walk the showroom floor, grab a bunch of business cards and, do your thing and capture audiences that are specific to what you do. Everybody on this call has a specific industry that they're involved with that they can benefit from finding ways to outreach and build that network. Because again, if you can reach out to people in an organic way via a personal email or communication, it goes goes a lot further than just a social media post or direct message there, right? You're able to communicate to them exactly what you're doing with, whether it's an authentic offer opportunity, advice or a willingness to help them in exchange for maybe a referral on your side. So think about your network. It should always be growing, and it should always be updated and fostered along. Build it out, right? Right now, I've got 18,000 emails in my personal email network. And it's kind of a lifetime of people that I've met along the way that I've one way or another been in communication with. But I still walk those shows, get as many cards as I can. I've always got business cards in my pocket with my email. And usually I find an excuse to ask them to, hey, why don't you email me? You know, whatever that looks like. Just as an example, again, because Bruce, you're on the screen there. Hey, why don't you email me? I'll send you a link to my show. We've got a really good show next week. We're talking about such and such, right? And then all of a sudden, they're like, yeah, I'll email you, Bruce. Boom, their email's in your email address book, and you've got one more contact, all because you had a card and you offered something to them or an excuse for them to email you, right? Beyond emails, your network could be built out on social media. It could be built out on phone numbers. It could be built out through being involved in the community and getting people to know who you are, right? But I like low-hanging fruit. And in my mind, low-hanging fruit is those emails and business cards. So think about it, make it a part of your routine. Get out there and get your shoes dirty, you know, walk the floors and meet some people. Rod said, hey, appreciate it, Rod. Great job with life. Cheat and steal. Some steals are actually giveaways. You just have to be looking and accepting, right? Which is true. You know, like I said, Sean Whalen gives it away and you're allowed to use that. You just have to accept it, right? And that kind of leads into mentors and people that are out there. You know, as humans, we like to help other people. I'm sure everybody on this call has said, hey, if you need anything, give me a call, right? Because we want to help. But at the same time, how many of us have said, hey, do you need some help? I need some help, right? Not too many of us are willing to ask for help. And it's interesting because as a society, we want to give it, but we're afraid to ask for it. So don't be afraid to ask for it. And oftentimes that might come in a form of a mentor when you look at your business and what you're building out. You know, find somebody that's doing what you're doing and has success, and don't be afraid to say, hey, by the way, you know, I'm struggling with this. Can you help me out? You know, quick email, quick phone call, maybe it's a DM, right? And just asking for a little bit of help. You know, don't be a time suck or a burden on that help, but a small ask might get you over that hurdle that we talked about in the beginning of this, is not realizing how close you were to the finish line. And that little bit of help might get you over the finish line, and boom, all of a sudden your business takes off, right? So look for mentors, look for opportunities to ask for help if you need it. And just understand that human nature is we want to give help, right? Especially in this day and age when everybody seems so closed off. So, you know, that's what we're here for. That's why we've always offered it every week. We're happy to help. So please let us know, but don't be afraid to ask for it. Now, I kind of skipped over a little bit of the read part. You know, there's a reason why we took the time on the Syndicate here to have a library of books. A library of books are there. And we feel that it's critically important that you utilize the resources that are in front of you, or at least the resources that aren't going to cost a lot of time, money, and effort, right? And a book comes in that form. If you look at the most successful CEOs in the country, historically, reading has always been a big part of their success, right? So you figure for $20, you can go out and get a book, read the whole thing, maybe put a few hours into it. And if you get one sentence out of that book that changes the dynamics of your business, not only was it worth the time, the energy, and the $20, but the commitment to reading is worth it, right? So obviously behind me, I've got all kinds of books back there. I've got many more on top of that, and many more in the closet. And I'm juggling 3 books right now that I'm reading in all different types of topics. And it's because I understand the value of it. We've talked about 75 Hard before as being a program that we respect for a variety of reasons, mainly the mental toughness portion of it. But part of the 75 Hard program, read 10 pages a day, right? Why would they put that in there if it wasn't important? Because it really is. And I don't care what age you are, young or old, we can always learn and reread some things again and again and again. Like I've talked about rereading Think and Grow Rich. I find a lot of value in that today, as I did 30 years ago. It's probably my 10th time reading that. It's on our homepage. Or finding something new and exciting that's out there. Most recently, I read Ed Milet's book of The Power of One More. And it's interesting because I think it's a 13-chapter book. It's an easy read, couple hours. And the theme of it is all in the title, The Power of One More, right? And what he means by is giving it one more, whether that's one more rep in the gym or one more minute on the phone call or one more hour helping a client, whatever your one more is, give it one more of that, right? And he tells a beautiful story of his father that really touched me. And that was, his dad lived that life. And his dad was a recovered alcoholic of 30 plus years, had really struggled at a young age. And his dad was a very prominent member in the Alcoholics Anonymous Society, where he mentored and he was a sponsor for a lot of people. And as Ed wraps up his book, the last chapter, he talks about his dad being his best friend and his dying days. And he says, my dad is on his deathbed, literally less than an hour to live. And he took a call from an AA, attendee asking for help. And his dad took that one more call. What a way to go, right? And, the story is fascinating, and it just shows the strength of human perseverance and willingness to help. But for me, that resonated, that one more. And it's funny because now, and I finished the book about a month ago, everything I do now in my mind, I only read the book. I keep going, do I got one more in me? Should I do one more rep, one more mile when I'm running? One more this, one more that, help one more person. It's stuck, and had I not read that book, I wouldn't have that extra strength, that extra superpower, I call it, right? So I'm happy to say that reading has brought a lot of value to me. And I think it can be an important, critical component of what you're doing in business, right? So library's free. Watch out for genderqueer. They still have that at the library, but there's plenty of good business books there. Hit up the library, hit us up. If you need something, Rod and I can give you some directions. Also on our website, all those books link straight to Amazon, which is probably the best price for them. But make reading a part of your business curriculum and your business aptitude for the day. So it really kind of wraps up what the title was for today, or what the lesson was, which was lie, cheat, and steal. And yes, you can steal these ideas as you teach your employees or do your podcast or whatever it is you do. I'd love for you to share it with other people. I'm open to questions now if you've got some, and I'm happy to talk about, anything off the wall, and while I'm waiting for any questions to pop up, if you have them, what's interesting in my own business life, when you look at what I do, which is consulting and now teaching, they call us adjunct professors, which in my younger years, I never thought I'd have that title. I could hardly wait to get out of school. But you always have to look at the ebbs and flow of your business. And we're heading into the holidays. And what I love about the holidays is, and by the way, it's an important time of year for me. I've got 2 young girls. We celebrate Christmas. We celebrate Thanksgiving. Both my girls have birthdays in November and December. So it is an important family time for me. And I'm telling you this because I want to tell you what my approach is in business around the holidays. And what that is I operate under the assumption that a lot of people are off, especially when you're in the liquor industry, that I was in for so many years. You can pretty much count on after the first week of December, you're not going to get anybody's attention till January. And I love that because I use that time to get ahead of everybody. Now I'm spending time with my family, but while they're still asleep in the morning, I'm at my desk. I'm getting ahead. When they go to bed early at 9 o'clock, I'm at my desk. I'm getting ahead. I'm going to work till 10 or 11 o'clock, right? When they're out playing in the yard because we've been together doing our thing, I'm going to grab some time behind the computer. I'm going to do everything I can to get ahead of my competition in my world while everybody else is taking that time off. And yeah, I'm going to rest easy on Christmas, but you can better believe I'm going to study the white space on my calendar. We've talked about being the student of your calendar, and that white space, that's where the opportunities lie. I'm going to attack all that white space in the next 90 days and ramp up my business. And trust me, when you see where Rod and I are going with some of these things in our own personal side of this business, you're going to go, shit, I was an early member of this Y.E.S syndicate. Look what these guys have done with these materials and where they've pushed through. And I like doing it for two reasons. One is it's an opportunity to help and for you to grow as members, but it's also an opportunity to show you that we practice what we preach. And I love that aspect of it. Bruce, do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how the hell to send it. Hold on.
Okay. Well, you sent
Let me
the
just
part.
ask it.
Here's
The bottom line. Being conservative, what you touched about on the story about your friend that's a social media influencer, part of the reason I stayed away from social media is, number one, not real happy that, Facebook and all this stuff censored President Trump. Whatever, not getting into politics, but at some point, because I run a training business, I suspect that I'm going to be canceled and they'll get rid of me, or that they will try to do that. And I don't want to look at that as a disadvantage. I think it can be a great advantage because it will let me narrow my focus on, if you look at, say, 100,000 people, and 50,000 of them are liberal, 50,000 of them are conservative. What I offer is typically not something that's necessarily going to be of interest to a lot of the folks of the liberal mindset. Why advertise to that, and waste time? That said, are there any alternative platforms that you guys are thinking about jumping into that I can start looking at to start spreading that word? Anything that's been particularly effective?
Bruce, I'm going to go against the grain of what your thought process is right now. Okay. Look, I got my Patriot shirt on, right? Everybody knows where I stand. And here's the thing. People on social media know thanks, Fred. You got your 1776 We the People shirt on. Look, people know where I stand on social media, Bruce. And I'm probably on the verge of being canceled. My wife runs a successful retail business online, which is all about liberty or lose, right? And every shirt she produces and hat is offending somebody, right? There's a belief behind that, and I stand firmly behind this. If you're authentic and exactly who you are on social media, the people that you attract are going to be people that are interested in what you're saying, are doing, or what you're offering. Okay, so there is some value there, right? Do I think that it's bullshit that those powers and those companies cancel people for whatever reason that is? And do I think that'll stop? I don't think it'll stop, and I think they're going to continue to do it, right? There's no doubt about it. It's going to happen. But if you can look at the alternative, okay, look at your investment to reach an audience, okay? Facebook's free, Instagram's free, Twitter is free, LinkedIn, for the most part, is free. Okay, you've got 4 platforms which you can reach hundreds of millions of people with one post. If it's done correctly, when you put that out there in a cyberspace, it is available for all those people to see, right? Now, let's just suggest that you're a spot on target for canceling. Okay, what's your runway before you get canceled? Let's say it's 2 years. Let's say it's 3 years. How much can you build your database in that period of time on a free platform? And maybe like me, you invest in having somebody do the platform for you, run your social media posts and all those other things. So yeah, you've got some active investment in there. But I'm talking about a free platform. Because I come from the corporate world way back when, I've spent $20,000 to $30,000 a page of advertising space in a magazine, our newspaper. Hell, I'm buying ad space right now in newspapers for some of my candidates for the election, right? Which is complete, hogwash. And then I'm looking at my free social media platform and going, wow, I'm getting a lot more out of this than I am out of that, right? So, I'd like for you to shift your mentality a little bit and say, look, I know that it's possible I could get canceled, but for the investment of time, money, right, your return could be pretty great. And by the way, there's some wonderful patriots that haven't been canceled yet, or people that will align with what you're doing and utilize your services. Okay. And by the way, you could soft sell them, using you as an example. You got a great podcast. That could be the soft sell, right? You could drive all your traffic to the podcast. This is what, education, 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 right? And once they get there, your opening line on the podcast could be, hey, this show's sponsored by, right, your day job. And that's training people in tactical warfare, or however you're putting your practices together, right? So you've grabbed the audience you want, you brought them to your podcast. Now you're selling what you really want to do, where you're monetizing, because you're not paying, people aren't paying to listen to your show, right? So
Right.
here they are getting free value from your show from a guy that can train you. So rethink that a little bit. There's a zone for you, right? There is a zone for you, and I would encourage you to take advantage of that. And in the meantime, while you're doing that, right, capture emails, capture interest.
And so I've gotten back into the Instagram thing because Will and I talked about it, and I think we're leaving money on the table.
Yeah.
And you got to get on it. And so you're right. Will I get canceled? I don't know, but I want to have a plan. And so one of the things I have been doing is the email stuff is I've devoted that into a database. I've got an Excel spreadsheet, and I reach out to those people 4 or 5 times a year. In fact, I just had a call, said, hey, can you do a 3/4 day class for carbine tune-up stuff? Didn't think anybody'd want it. And the next thing I know, I'm getting people crawling out of the woodwork saying, hey, will you come do it? So I'm like, sure. So yeah, I'm a big fan on that email thing.
Yeah. And so to really kind of hit that home, you're leaving money on the table. At the end of the day, if you're not utilizing all these platforms, you're leaving money on the table. And the thing is, what is great, and you don't have to worry too much about getting canceled, right? You can have a basic page promoting your website. Hey, this is for everybody, by the way. Have a basic, Instagram page. And I like Instagram better than the other ones. I hardly ever use Facebook, but what I do post on Instagram automatically goes over to Facebook. You can have a basic page that talks about your podcast, not too controversial. You can start following people that have influence, and then you have access to everybody that follows them. And there's nothing wrong with you going into their followers and sending direct messages to those people like, hey, I'm in fear of being canceled on social media, but this is what I offer. Check out my website, right? Put the link to your website or whatever your message is to them. You have access to those same hundreds of millions of people, right? So you just need to find like-minded people that haven't been canceled, reach out to their audiences and have a dialogue with them. If you reach out to me and said, hey, Jim, I live in Montana. I see that you're in Kalispell. I'm less than an hour away. I teach, tactical firearms instruction, and you start going to this, holy shit, I didn't know you were down there. Yeah, I'd love to come down, right? All of a sudden it's like, boom, boom, boom. We're connecting. Okay. So give it a shot. It's not going to hurt you. Probably not going to cost you much either.
Okay,
So,
cool.
Yep. Rod, explanation point email. Other platforms are on his agenda for the next quarter, but it is a time issue right now for me. Right. And that's really what happens to all of us is, we don't have the opportunity to take advantage of every resource because it's time and discipline. Right. But you have to look at where your business is at and what's important for the business and what action you need to take next to ramp that business up. Right. So, Bruce, because we're in dialogue here, you're ramping up a podcast show. Right. And I know I said it, it's a good show, right? It's full of information. So what you have to do is have confidence in what you're doing and ramp that up, utilizing as many tools as you can. Emails, Instagram, friends of friends, tell everybody, tell the world, let me get my numbers up, because then they start sharing, right? Utilize all those tools and be in a ramp up. Okay. And so take advantage of everything that you can. Now, once you're up here, you might say, look, I've been canceled a bunch. It's bullshit to spend all my time and energy on social media. I'm going to refocus on this area, this silo of promoting my business, right? Oftentimes, once you've been established, Fred, this might be a good one for your clothing company. Once you've been established, start building a relationship with your previous customers in a way that you've never done that before, right? Reach out to them and say, hey, I appreciate you as a customer. You were one of my first 2 years ago. Would love to have you back. And all of a sudden you personalize your relationship with them. And they're thinking, God, I didn't even know he knew I bought a shirt or a hat or something like that. So there's other ways to build up your business down the road. So lots of tactics there. So thanks for putting up the podcast there. You could also follow, speaking of which, you can follow the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate on Instagram. We did put Bruce's show on there with a link, so you can find it pretty easy. And by the way, anybody else in here that has a business that they want promoted, send me an email with your logo, your website, and we will add it to our list of posts to make sure that we give you some spotlight there and some love and attention on a regular basis. Our numbers are growing, but I like to repost those things on my numbers, which hit a pretty decent audience. So, all right, Bruce is on YouTube and Spotify. So right on, everybody. Okay, any more questions, Fred? What's happening with you? Do you want to share anything? Haven't seen you for a couple of weeks. You said you've been busy.
Yeah, I've been on kind of the time crunch right now with my corporate job, and then I'm trying to get another business venture, actually two business ventures off the ground, from the trailer business with Eric and then the podcast that I've been working on. So I've got everything moving down the road, but I was laughing because some of the guys that I follow that I really truly like are the Andy Frisellas of the world. Obviously, Ed Milet. I'm on the second round of The Power of One More. And interestingly enough, The Power of One More, I listen to audiobooks when I'm out riding my bike. And for some reason, it just wasn't resonating with me right away. And but the weirdest thing is I go, I got to give this a chance because I really like Ed Milet,
Mm-hmm.
It turns out, like third or fourth chapter in, I gave it another chance and it really resonated with me. I like his simplistic approach. And Ed Milet has his approach is so different than Andy Frisella's, where he brings a lot of fire. Same thing with Sean Whalen. But the message is the same across the board. And I try to keep, I think it's probably the biggest takeaway for The Power of One More is the simplicity that Ed Milet brings to the table, because we have all these grand ideas. And I know that I overwhelm myself with trying to accomplish things. And because you set the goal, the bar way, way too high. But it's, back to Andy Frisella. What's he talking about? You gotta win the day. You're not winning the week, you're not winning the month, you're not winning the quarter of the year. You're winning the day. The power of one more is what you're doing right now, that one extra step or rep that you're going to do. And so, but it's interesting when you talk about the reading, I obviously read a lot, and then I listen to these podcasts and books. And I'm like at that point in my life where I used to be a heavy action taker, just massive. I've kind of got away from that. I've, maybe some scars and bumps along the road, but I'm like in this zone where I got to get things done. The last few weeks have been a grind because of the demand at my corporate job. And but I had a massive breakthrough because I'm not going to operate in the shadows of this large company. So I decided, like Sean Whalen says, he goes, build your own stage, shine your light. And I operated in a fashion that did that. It was a little nerve-wracking, because I got an audience that I don't know if they're all left or right or, Fred, that's what I call it. Cause I'm Southern California. So I have a different business demeanor than they do in the Midwest. But I said, hey, I'm gonna let it loose. I'm gonna let it rip the way I normally do. And it was received with accolades. But I think I worked so hard. I ran myself into the ground, got sick, really sick on Thursday night, had to fly home early from Grand Rapids, Michigan. And, but I'm still at it. So, but anyways, it's just interesting. You brought up those examples. Those are the guys that I really kind of gravitate towards. And sometimes you got to go back and listen to things one or more times. But, in listening to this stuff so much, you think you could go in circles eventually. But I think what happens is it starts to formalize in your head, and it starts to really become, you pick out the things that you like, and you hear the same message over and over again. This base hits. Everybody I know, especially myself, I want to hit a home run, and we're in glory land, right? But that's not how it works. And it's not part of the fun either, because the fun is the adventure along the way, right? And so anyways, there's a lot of little nuggets that kind of cross over. And I appreciate you sharing those perspectives. There's some of the guys that I admire in the business along with you guys. But it doesn't always have to be somebody that's got the biggest stage on the planet like Ed Milet or Andy Frisella, because it's about the daily chance, the daily work that you do, winning the day, and just staying focused on what you want to do. I'm building the life for me. I don't need to be a billionaire. I keep hearing the billionaire number keep coming up with all these guys. I want to be a billionaire. I used to be a millionaire, but now that's not good enough. If you're a millionaire, you suck. I go out, I'd be happy just living life, spending time with my kids, and just being comfortable.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. You
so
know,
anyway,
Fred, and you brought up some good points there, Fred. And the thing is, look, the reason why those guys are great is because they have the following, right? They're reaching the masses, which for some reason, our perspective is that validates the message, right? They've got, you know, a couple million followers and all of a sudden they're validated. But the reality is there's the small guy that has no followers anywhere, but yet it's the same exact message. So I think it's important that whatever resonates with us on how we receive the message, the important part is the action that we take from that message. And really that's what Rod and I hope to achieve in this group, is that not only are we validating some of the messaging you might hear with those other podcasts or shows, the books that I'm referring you to read, but we're hoping that we can help you stimulate the action and maybe hold you accountable to that. It's part of the reason why we say, hey, let's talk during the week. If you need something, let's start generating action, because, you know, I love a good cheerleader, but at the same time, it's unsatisfying once you leave the game, right? So let's get in the game. Let's create some action and make some things happen, right? So it's interesting. We're talking about podcasts, and glad to hear that you're working on something, Fred. Because of my podcast the last 3 years, I've been able to generate so much business and interest for what I'm doing. It's become a great tool. And if you have your own business, you should really highly consider generating your own podcast. It's not free, but it's pretty inexpensive to put together a tool that you can utilize for other things. As an example, I took a call today from Matt Brudeau, who's partners with Tim Kennedy. Between the two of them, and by the way, Bruce, Tim Kennedy would be somebody that you would align with, because he's an ex-military. He's got 1.3 million followers on his social media. But these guys want to work with Rod and I and what we're offering as our values of the syndicate here, right? Because they're working with young men only. So social media is providing a lot of tools for me to do other things. Podcast has provided a lot of tools, and it puts me in the arena with people like Tim Kennedy, who you know, they know Andy Frisella pretty well there, Fred. So maybe one day I'll get that good connect. But the reality is that we're able to make moves and strides because of the work that we're doing, the foundation that we're laying through the various channels between podcasts, social media, emails, etc. So anyways, all right. Any other questions popping up? Final thoughts, Wayne? I see you're out there. I know you're always grinding away. Appreciate that, Palin, making it happen in the Dakotas. So look, guys, I appreciate your continuous commitment to being on these shows, to listening to the calls, to asking the questions. But I also want to encourage you to take a hard look at your action items and what's going to be different tomorrow based on what you're learning and what you're studying. And even if the call itself doesn't resonate with you because you're not into the topic, hopefully the act of being involved with a group of people that care will stimulate you to do one more thing or something different than what you did today to move your project forward to tomorrow, or to be encouraged by what you're doing, whether you're an intrapreneur or an entrepreneur. You know, Fred, you're both. Yeah, you know, Jim Spilson's working on being both. There's an avenue in both arenas to be the best you can, to bring all you can. I love what I heard the other day. You're here anyway, you might as well give it 100%, right? So if you're building your business, you might as well give it 100%. If you're working for somebody, give it 100%, be the best you can. If nothing else, you're setting an example of who you are, what you represent, and where you're going. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that obviously leads to other opportunities in life. So next week, Rod will be back on the call. I'll probably have more comments. We are available for you in between the calls. So hopefully everybody, I call it Columbus Day. So if you were off today, hopefully you enjoyed it. He did discover America. He did create the land of opportunity, the greatest country in the world. So thank you for that. We should celebrate. And to the rest of you guys, thanks for tuning in. Look forward to seeing you next week. And we'll leave it at that. So talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.